Welcome to episode 170 of Timm Talk, the podcast about the DC animated universe, co-created by Bruce Timm. I'm Chris Lord.
I'm Kieran Dexter.
And we're back this week, not only with more Justice League, but with more Injustice Gang. This time teaming up with an Amazon. But before we get to that, we're going to do our usual news here.
And oh man, two of your favorite subjects came into the fray this week, Chris.
God damn it. So we, for the listeners, Cam and I always kind of like run through a list of things to talk about news beforehand. And I didn't have this on my list, but you insisted we talk about it.
How did you not? This was the news of the week, Chris.
Because I don't care. I genuinely don't care. I even had like the other assistants from my former job, like we all have a text thread together, and they were all going on and on about this, and I just ignored all of them because I really don't give a shit about this. But Cameron, take it away. What was the biggest news that happened this week that no one actually cares about?
Quibi, that platform that everyone had and everyone loved and adored and got first day, paid for, didn't use the 90-day subscription, is dead.
It's
this
dead.
$2 billion, almost fan-funded, from the sounds of it, program.
How is it fan-funded?
Well, they tried to do like a fan funding to keep it alive, and it did not work.
This
sorry. $2 billion
no.
platform. I know.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. No, there's no way in hell that I'm going to like give money to Jeffrey Katzenberg and Med Whitman to keep alive a streaming service no one asked for.
Oh, God, no, never.
God damn it. What? Wait, where did the fan thing come from? Was that a grassroots movement to keep it alive, or is that something Quibi's like, hey, we could use your help. Please give us money.
Probably more grassroots. I don't see Katzenberg ever lowering himself to asking someone for money.
I don't know. I could also see him doing it because, if I've learned anything from watching DuckTales and, spending some time with the great Scrooge McDuck is that, you don't become a billionaire by spending money. So
right.
It would put a past.
I know one of my coworkers explained it perfectly of, this is not going to affect either of them at all, but we can expect in maybe 3 to 4 months, Katzenberg's going to have his own masterclass on how to lose $2 billion in less than 6 months.
Lose $2 billion of other people's money. It's fine. Don't worry. If you're a billionaire, you can just continue to fail up.
Yes. So Quibi is dead. I didn't realize this about Quibi. So obviously this was like a mobile first kind of program. I didn't realize it was only available on mobile apps though. So you can only get it on your phone or iPad. And it wasn't until last week, literally 7 days ago, the Quibi finally was like, okay, I guess we should maybe launch this also on Apple TV and Roku and other streaming platforms. Which, that's a good time when you're 6 months deep into your platform of like, I guess now is the time we'll open it to everybody.
Yeah. I just love the pandering and condescension inherent in the concept of, hey, you know what millennials and Gen Z love is to watch TV on their phones. And to like, they don't have, patience to watch anything longer than 10 minutes. Let's give them like 10-minute little quick bites. They can only watch on their phone and they can, watch it while they're riding public transportation to their jobs they hit every single day. And I love that that's the platform they launched. And then a global pandemic hits and all of a sudden now no one's commuting to and from work. Everyone's at home and just watching shit on their TV all the time.
Yeah. But do you ever watch anything on your phone?
No.
I hate it. I can't stand it.
I actively avoid watching shit on my phone. Like the most that I'll watch on my phone is if like someone sends me a TikTok via Instagram because I don't have TikTok, and then like I'll sit and watch it.
So when I send you a TikTok.
Yes, exactly. When you send me TikToks. Like that's the grand extent of it. Otherwise, like even when I'm on Reddit on my computer and not on my phone. Same. Like I won't watch movie trailers. Like I don't watch anything on my phone. Because fucking why would I? Like, why would I watch it on my tiny-ass little phone when I have, like, a 13-inch laptop or, better yet, like, a 50-some-odd-inch TV? Why?
Right.
Yeah. Fucking why?
Yes. But with that note, I just want to put a plea out to HBO and AT&T and Warner Brother of if you guys can stop your fucking fight, whatever you're having with Apple, and with Roku, because I checked the other day, HBO Max is still not available on Roku devices.
Still? Seriously?
Still, because AT&T is too much of, having this big dick contest with the world.
Yeah.
And it's like, no one fucking cares about you, AT&T. No one is going to compare you to Apple or Amazon. Like, we understand you're just as corrupt and evil, but, you got your CEO needs a couple billion more dollars before you can start to compete.
Yeah. I have no patience or any of that sort of shit. Like, I use an Apple TV for better or more often than not worse these days. And it has HBO Max. I'm like, okay, it's fine. But yeah, I would be super pissed if I, wanted to watch that sort of stuff and I had a Roku.
Yeah, it's so because the Peacock's up there already, the one that no one ever talks about or remembers.
No,
it's like, how are you losing to the free one? You're the most expensive service available right now, and you are still limiting yourself.
I know.
Anywho, Quibi's dead. Society's crumbling. I mean, are they connected? Who knows? I'm gonna say yes.
Is the demise of Quibi the final nail in the coffin of humanity?
We're gonna find out.
Honestly, I could go for a nice post-apocalyptic scenario. Actually, you know what? No, I could just go for a full-on apocalyptic scenario at this point.
I wouldn't survive a day. Like, I'm not built for the apocalypse.
I'm talking about, like, take everyone out at this point.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Just wipe everything.
Man, that would have been a great segue if we didn't have other news to talk about.
Honestly, we will be talking about apocalypses later, coincidentally. Yes. But yeah, we do have some other news, and more important news than the inevitable death of Quibi. We got our first trailer for Raya and the Last Dragon this week.
Yes, Raya looks absolutely fantastic. I know I had to spell it differently in my doc just to remind myself to pronounce it right.
So it's Raya.
Raya and the Last Dragon, yes.
Okay, Raya the Last Dragon. It looks amazing.
Yes. So it's directed. They changed directors recently to be the two guys that directed Big Hero 6, and I think that very much shines through in this trailer. Mm-hmm. But then to compare it, I also rewatched the original Big Hero 6 trailer. It's not a good trailer.
Is it not? I don't even remember the trailer.
No, it is. It is showing it as a full-on comedy.
Oh, that's not what that is.
No, I was really off-put by the original trailer.
Is there a lot of T.J. Miller in that first trailer?
There's no T.J. Miller. It doesn't show the friend group at all. It's just Hero and Baymax.
Oh, okay. Oh, they try to position it as like a buddy comedy sort of thing?
Yeah.
Which I guess it kind of is.
Buddy comedy with friends.
Yeah, exactly. But it's so much more than that. I love Big Hero 6. It's one of my favorites.
It's one of the best ones in the past 10 years.
Yeah. And yeah, I'd agree with you. This looks on par with that. Like, the animation is absolutely beautiful. So excited that Kelly Marie Tran is doing the voice because Disney fucking owes her.
Yep.
And let's also not just ignore the fact that she is incredibly talented in her own right. So please, giving her more work. But yeah, I'm super excited about this. It looks really fun.
Yeah, it looks like this unique middle ground between Moana and Big Hero 6, which is great. But also, funny enough, if it positionally, that's also where this movie fits, because this is Central Asia.
Oh yeah, actually that makes sense. Yeah, It's right there. Now, I'm trying to remember, what did they show when you went to D23? How much did you already see?
Did I tell you I went to D23?
Yes, you've mentioned before you've gone to D23. We did a whole fucking episode on it, which I have forgotten. Did they show any footage during that?
They did, yes. At D23 they introduced the dragon, who's voiced by Aquafina. Yeah, it's fun.
So was the trailer more on top of what you've already seen then? Was a lot of it new for you? Or was
this was all new footage.
Cool.
What they showed at D23, which honestly at this point could be completely changed because the movie has gone through such, huge rewrites and director changes since then.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But no, what they showed was just like a 2-minute clip of her meeting the dragon.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yes,
So
we
this
didn't get any action. It was very kind of just dialogue heavy, kind of limited animation stuff.
Okay, yeah, because this shows a little bit of action, and there's this adorable little like roly-poly armadillo thing happening that looks super cute. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now I'm very excited for this, and this is one that I hope they do maintain. They keep a theatrical release on for a number of reasons. I just this is a movie that I would want to see do well for a lot of reasons. So
yeah, and so it's what March or May is where it's set right now.
Honestly, I've stopped paying attention to when things are supposed to land because I don't think anything is going to keep. So
that's very fair.
Yeah, but so we got the Raya trailer.
Raya.
Damn it! I will never get this right.
Just whenever you type it, just put an I instead of an A.
The Rhea trailer. Yes.
Raya.
But more importantly, I would say this week, we got our first full trailer for the new Animaniacs series that's coming to Hulu. And oh my good God, does it look amazing.
Yeah. So the first announcement came at Digital New York Comic Con.
Yes.
And I sent you the teaser, which was them remaking Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
with the Animaniacs.
The scene in Jurassic Park where Sattler and Grant first see the dinosaurs, but redone in animation with the Animaniacs, and it's so good. And yeah, so that was our first tease, and now this is like the full trailer that actually plays like shows a bunch of scenes, and it looks so tonally on point with what the original show used to be.
Yes, I'm so excited for this show. It looks amazing. And I had the concern before, and I might have brought it up on air, of like Animaniacs back then was so topical because the news cycle wasn't the speed it was today.
Yeah.
And I was worried that because we go through news so fast, it wouldn't have that same like topical bug. But from the trailer, it looks like it's still on point, exactly what it should be and what we expect it to be.
Oh, yeah. It's still like, heavily embedded with a bunch of pop culture jokes and like references. My favorite joke in the whole thing is when Pinky's complaining about how hard it is to online date. He doesn't know if he's getting catfish or not, and he turns his phone over. It's a picture of an actual catfish.
Yes.
Just like, that is the sort of just like stupid sight gag that I am here for.
Yes. I haven't been able to figure out exactly what I want yet, but I still have been trying to figure out what musical numbers I want Yakko to do.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we'll get at least one. God.
Yes.
It's going to be so good. Like, so we know at this point that obviously the Animaniacs, Yakko, Wacko, and Dot will all be returning. We know that Pinky and the Brain will be returning. We didn't get confirmation on any of the other sections, any of the other segments from the original show, whether those are coming back or not. I imagine they're probably holding on to a few surprises for us. Mm-hmm. But I mean, even with just those 5 characters coming back, like that's enough to, I think, make anyone who loves those original series super excited.
Yeah. And I'm also curious, the old series was, for kids, but the jokes were written well enough. It was enjoyed by adults as well.
Oh, yeah.
I'm curious if they're going to keep that tone or if they're going to know that their fan base is now much older.
Oh,
and if
I
they're going to kind of, mature the comedy a little bit to be more for the like old teens, early 20s kind of humor.
That is actually a very good point that the Animaniacs was around at a very like specific and unique time in animation where like that was kind of one of the first shows that was hitting both demographics really solidly. Like it was the era when shows were actively trying to do that. I mean, I think BTOS is another great example there. I think, something like Ren and Stimpy was skewed a little bit more adult, But there like tons of stuff on Nickelodeon had a lot of like inappropriate stuff in there that like they could kind of get away with them because people weren't paying as close of attention, or just like the
the PC police weren't fucking just ruining everything that we enjoy back then,
Yeah, exactly. And so, but now, like, now I think you can still get that sort of like adult humor in there. I mean, I think DuckTales, which we keep going on and on about, like, is good about throwing some of that stuff in there. And it's not necessarily that the jokes they're throwing in are crass or inappropriate. It's more that they are, just like a little bit more cerebral than maybe the kids would get, or aimed at a slightly more adult, but not necessarily risque thing. But yeah, that's a good point. Like, I wonder if, because it's going up on Hulu, that it's, squarely being marketed towards, like our age group, if they're going to just be like, okay, fine, we don't have to worry about trying to make this slightly more kid appropriate. And maybe that'll let them keep their, the moments of inappropriate humor that the original series was known for. Ooh.
Yeah.
I hope so, at least. I mean, I don't know. I just want it to be good at the end of the day. Like, I just want it to be good. I want it to feel like the original show. I'm actively avoiding going back and rewatching the original, so I don't have that like too fresh in my mind. So I can just appreciate this new one for what it is.
That's fair.
Yeah.
But in the trailer, it also, I think it roughly set up what the story is going to be. At least my interpretation of it is going to be like they've been in the water tower since 1992. Because there's that joke where Yakko's like, oh, all the information's on this tablet, like one easy to swallow tablet.
He just swallows an iPad.
Yeah. And so from that, I'm going to guess that the first episode is going to be them like readjusting to society 30 years later.
Oh, God, I cannot wait. Oh, it's going to be so much fun.
Mm-hmm. I know, and that's mid-November, so just a couple weeks away.
Just around the corner. Oh my God, it's gonna be fantastic. All right, and then our last little bit of news here.
Yeah, speaking of apocalyptic news.
Yeah, speaking of things that I don't give a shit about, apparently Jared Leto, who cares, and Joe Manganiello.
Well, already 1 point you love.
Yeah. Look, I'm happy that Joe Manganiello is coming back for reshoots on Justice League, because one, I just adore him as a person, because not only is he just like a super hunky, sexy wolf, but also like he's a big old nerd, and from everything I've heard is like a total sweet guy. So one, I'm just glad that like he's getting anything to do, but especially his Deathstroke was something we never really got a chance to see. So totally excited they're bringing him back. Could not care less they're bringing Jared Leto back for Justice League reshoots. And also, I do have to give a shout out to James Strecker, who was just following up, like just listening to one of our other episodes. And apparently, I recently said I don't think they're bringing back Jared Leto. And he pointed that out. It's like, oh, Chris says that they're not bringing back Jared Leto. Q2 Curb Your Enthusiasm theme song. I'm like, yep, that's about right. I should have known that anything could happen. I mean, do you care about this?
Not at all. But I'm trying to think what's left that could surprise us about this.
I don't know.
It's 4 hours of content.
Yeah,
we're having Deathstroke and Joker and what's his face? Who was the main villain in the original one? Steppenwolf.
Yeah, and Darkseid.
I
don't know if they've confirmed Jesse Eisenberg yet or not. I honestly can't remember.
Okay, yeah.
But like, so
they got to surprise us with something on screen.
Well, so here's the thing: is at this point, nothing is surprising anymore because everything is surprising.
Right.
When
everyone's super, no one is.
Yeah, it's like you kind of. Yeah, it's you kind of just figure at this point, like, well, they'll throw everything at this, right? It's like, it was a big surprise when they announced that Ben Affleck was coming back for Flashpoint, but we're also like, but should we be surprised? Like, of course, because it's such a mess at this point now. Like, they're just embracing the swirling vortex of chaos that is their film universe.
Yeah, and it's them like crawling on the floor, trying to pick up any editing scraps that were there. They're digging through the vacuum cleaner bag, trying to pull out any scenes they can still find. Because obviously, when they say the editing room floor, it's a physical place.
It is, yeah. There's just, pieces of celluloid scattered across the floor.
Yeah.
So
Just anything that's there, they just kind of like wave in the air, like, Mr. Snyder, here's a picture of Jesse Eisenberg putting his bald cap on. We can use this, right?
yes, put it in.
Put it in.
I mean, I guess that's the thing, is they do have like 4 hours of content to fill, which I'm pretty sure is longer than his original cut was to begin with. So, look, I guess I don't care about Jared Leto's Joker. I don't need to see more of it. The one thing I will say is, if this is them attempting to make this a fully closed off, conclusive piece of filmmaking, like because we've talked about this before, that the original version of Justice League was going to be a 2-parter, and the stuff that was filmed was only the first part. If this is their way to then like make it so that it's not open-ended in any sort of way and it's finite, that I think is worth the extra effort going into this. But if we get a fucking 4-hour Snyder cut that then doesn't satisfactorily close off everything, and it just now starts feeling like hashtag release Justice League Snyder Cut 2, I am going to lose it.
I think they should just hire the How It Should Have Ended guys from YouTube to make like a super crass animated ending for them of part 2.
Perfect. Honestly, I'd prefer that at this point.
Yeah,
I prefer
same.
that to another 3 to 4 years of just like angry fanboy Twitter ranting, and then another fucking 4-hour film that's not even going to be good.
Yeah, but Chris, here's the thing. The angry Twitter boy fanboys are always going to be there.
I know, but let's give them.
They're going to find something else to piggyback on once this chapter has closed.
Look, they're always
We're going to
be
get
there.
released the ugly Sonic cut.
They're always going to be there, and I'm always going to hate them. But we can also, try and just reduce them by not giving kindling to the ongoing trash fire that they are.
Release the butthole cut is still something people should be talking about.
I am all for release the butthole cut. There's no way I'm going to sit down and watch Cats, even to make fun of it. But if there's a fucking butthole cut, I will watch that. All right, well, now that we've taken care of a bunch of news that I didn't care about but talked way too much about, we can finally get into our episodes this week. And so it is another Justice League 2-parter. It is Fury. And this one sees Arisia, a rogue Amazon, recruit the remainder of Lex Luthor's Injustice gang to help her pull off a series of heists. During one of the heists, Superman tries to stop her, but she sets off a gas grenade that infects Superman with a mysterious illness. And soon others start to fall sick as well. And we know this is building up to the end of all men.
Yes, which, she's not fully wrong.
Oh, she's not wrong at all.
No.
So the whole idea here is that she is working to build it's not a virus, it's an allergen that only affects men, and we'll just scoot around the scientific insanity that would entail, because not only does it affect all men, but it also affects like men of alien species. It's a little bit weird and confusing, but when I was watching this, my main thought was, this would be a good thing. I'm just gonna say this honestly.
Yeah. Just like give them a couple years of just an all-female society. Just have it to themselves for a while.
I'd even be fine with a permanent sort of thing. And look, I recognize that one, as a man, but also as a man who dates other men, this would just make the world a better place.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I did see in like the trivia that, like whether Arisia was aware of it or not, like she would doom humanity to eventually go extinct within a few generations. And maybe she doesn't realize like, like women aren't immortal unless they are, from Themyscira. But also like, I'm pretty sure scientists could find a way to like keep things going.
Yeah. Well, with how much sperm do we have saved up at the sperm bank? Like they'll be fine for a generation at least.
Yeah, and I think that's long enough to figure out a way to keep moving forward. And again, this is me painting with very broad brushstrokes, but I also feel like, a bunch of female scientists could figure this out because they're not dealing with the sort of just like absurd egotism that comes with like just men in general.
Yeah. So on Themyscira, the Amazons, they're still crafted from clay, right?
No, that's
just Wonder Woman?
That's just Wonder Woman.
Okay.
And so there is, and this is something that we'll, I think, learn more about as we progress through the DCAU, and I'm sure others know way more about this than we do, as is often the case. But there's a little bit of ambiguity as to like what capabilities the Amazons have, and then also in contrast to Wonder Woman. So at least at this point in the DCAU, we haven't gotten her full origin. That's going to be revealed, I believe, in an episode of Justice League Unlimited. And without going into exactly what that origin is, it definitely implies that she is distinct amongst the Amazons.
Right.
Because as we see in this episode, like Arisia and Hippolyta both can't fly, which Wonder Woman can. It's a little unclear what of that is because of her own unique special abilities, what of that comes from the armor that she wears. Mm-hmm. Like, I always kind of assumed that her silver bracelets were distinct to her, and that's how she could like deflect shots and stuff. But we do see at one point Arisia, when she's being trained by the Amazons, deflecting flaming arrows with similar golden bracelets. So I think, as far as I can tell, in this continuity, the Amazons are immortal and are super strong, and just through, I think, probably a lot of training as well, like near perfect athletes. But I don't necessarily think they have a lot of superpowers beyond that.
Yes.
With
I know this is more in part 2, but I just want to put this question out there now.
Mm-hmm.
The reason they banished Wonder Woman was for leaving the island, correct?
No. They banished her because she brought men to the island.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so she could have returned anytime.
Yeah, so she could have returned anytime, and she did. Like, because when we, in Paradise Lost, like, we see that it had been, I think, 3 months since she had left. I think 3 months, whatever it was, since she left the island. And the reason she hadn't gone back was that she was embarrassed because she just like left in the middle of the night without saying goodbye. She didn't say goodbye to her mom. She stole the armor and the golden lasso of truth. So she was just kind of embarrassed. So eventually she did go back because she could go back at any time. But it's only because of the events of that episode and her bringing the male members of the Justice League back to the island that she was banished.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. Because when they showed Hippolyta come out, I thought that, like, that meant she also couldn't ever return.
She couldn't go back.
Yeah. And I'm like, what is this bullshit of, like, well, I'm queen, so I can do this. I know you're a princess.
Yeah.
But I make the rules.
Yeah. Yeah, she makes a comment about how the Amazons, never leave the island. And I think it's Batman makes a comment, it's like, oh, really? Never? Like, clearly, I think that's more of like a generally accepted rule. They don't do it, but they technically can leave and come back. They just, in general, choose to avoid dealing with the outside world, which honestly, I don't blame them.
What's the Amish thing where you have like 2 weeks where you to go and party?
Rumspringa?
Yeah. Do you think there's an Amazon version of Rumspringa?
I mean,
they just go to Europe and like have a coffee and just like enjoy, the technology of modern society.
I mean, I guess they technically could, but I feel like, honestly, what would you be missing out on? Like, what would any of the rest of the world have to offer?
Espresso machines, Chris.
Look, as a non-coffee drinker,
gelato.
No,
I don't see any ice cream machines on that island.
I'm sure the Amazons have found a way to like keep stuff cold, and I'm sure they could figure out a way to make ice cream.
I haven't seen it.
I really don't think
French fries. There's not enough space on that island for a potato farm.
Who knows? I mean, okay. I think I forget it. I'm not gonna try and remember I'm not gonna try and remember the history of the potato and where it came from.
No, Chris, I want you to go over the entire history of the potato, please. We have time.
No, we don't. I have other shit to do.
Do you? I don't. I have time.
I definitely do. No, okay, fine. Like maybe I would love if it's probably out there somewhere. There's probably a comic that has the Amazons going off on some like there's probably a comic from like the late 80s, early 90s where like like three Amazons go off into the world on their version of a Rumspringa, and I'm sure it's just like terrible and probably like super misogynist and narrow-minded and is a piece of garbage.
Yeah, they go to, let's just go to a discotheque.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes. I mean, Themyscira is great, but we don't have Duran Duran. So
We don't.
what do we do with ourselves?
We can't get Daft Punk over here.
I know. There's no Oingo Boingo.
They should just go to Universal Studios.
No, they're going to go to that weird like Warner Brothers amusement park that was only open in Australia for a few years. Like that's what they're going to go to.
The Titanic ride. I've
But
talked
they wouldn't even know what
about
the Titanic is. You've talked about the Titanic ride, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yes.
You're right. They wouldn't know what the Titanic is. But I
Yeah,
mean, it's I wouldn't be surprised if one of the like Titanic goers ended up washing up on the Mascara shores, because it seems like at least one of every collapsed ship, at least one survivor makes it to the Mascara.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So that is like the whole point of the episode is that we come to learn that Arisia is not a born Amazon, but she was a refugee who washed ashore on Themyscira and then was raised by the Amazons to be one of their own, and then also imbued with the typical powers of an Amazon. But somehow, while she is there in like her final rite of passage, like going through like isolated meditation, she gets a whole bunch of books from the outside world, including one on germ warfare. So we all know where that is heading to.
Yes.
But I mean, so we kind
She's
of
going
touched
to
on
cure the common cold.
it would be really useful if she did. But so we've kind of touched on like what her ultimate villainous scheme is here, which is basically to wipe out half of all men on the planet and, acknowledge that honestly it would be for the best. But this episode also kind of like starts out an interesting way, right? So the opening of it is Arisia leading the remainder of the Injustice gang on a heist to some biolab, right? And of course, this once again highlights just what a total badass Batman is, because he basically takes on the whole Injustice gang by himself. Mm-hmm. I also want to give a particular shout out to the animation in the sequence, especially this bit where Batman is fighting Grundy. Like the animation there is like beautiful. The fight choreography is great, and they kind of just they don't cut around. Like they just let that like fight sequence play out for a little bit of time.
It's a good minute of animation.
Yeah, exactly. It's it really just goes to emphasize just the capabilities of the animators and the really beautiful fluid motion of the fight sequence there. But he takes out all of them up until he goes up against Arisia, who then kicks the shit out of him because he's not expecting her to be an Amazon. And so then he gets a hold of her necklace, which he recognizes as being from Themyscira. So he goes to find Wonder Woman to talk to her about it. But before we get to them reuniting, we have this very bizarre sequence of Wonder Woman shopping.
Yes, it feels very reminiscent of the movie, of the live action film.
Oh, in like the fish out of water sort of sense?
Yeah.
Okay, I can kind of see that, because my question for you is going to be, what is the point of this? Like, I didn't feel like it really set up anything about her character that played out over the rest of the episodes.
I feel like there might have been a line that was cut because it was a little too hand-fisted, especially for this episode, because there is the line of like, why would a woman hide her natural beauty? Mm-hmm. And I feel like in there, that line was originally like, why are you turning yourself into the woman a man wants to see kind of situation?
Okay.
Like maybe
yeah.
like all these makeup brands are made by men, kind of like for men's desires.
Right. Yeah. You're buying all this stuff to adhere to the male gaze and the male perspective on beauty.
Yeah. And so maybe that scene was Wonder Woman originally being like, hey, don't do that. Like, do it for you, not for the guy.
Yeah, I agree. I think something like that would have made it work a little bit better, because you're right. There is a slight fish out of water element. Like, she's wandering around this department store and just kind of just confused by everything that's going on around her, like the mannequins and the cosmetics and the jewelry and stuff like that. But I wasn't quite sure why she was there in the first place. Like, was this her trying to like get a better sense of what, you know, the outside world is like? But if that's the case, you know, we're, I think at this point now, several months into her being away from Themyscira, you kind of feel like this sort of stuff would have happened earlier.
Yeah. Okay, here's a pitch for you, Chris. This one's a little more obscure and maybe a little more sexist. I'll let you figure that one out for me.
Okay. Off to a great start.
The cure / antidote for the allergen is the perfume that Wonder Woman is sprayed with in the department store.
Impertinence.
Yes.
This is the name of it, which I thought was fantastic.
And so the only people that survive are women and drag queens that use that perfume.
I mean, honestly, a world that was just like women and drag queens would sound kind of fantastic, actually.
Yeah, and smell wonderful.
Yeah, although we get the impression that maybe the fragrance Impertinence is not that great to begin with. Yeah, I mean, it just felt like a slightly odd sequence. Like, I didn't really get what, you know, you kind of feel like that was intended to be a way to set up where Wonder Woman's head is at the beginning of this. Like, and I could see if it was something where she was, you know, like missing her sisters, her people, that makes sense. Or if, you know, it was more a commentary on her not being used to having men in her life. Like, that would kind of make sense.
Yeah.
Too. Like, obviously it couldn't be her hanging out with Batman, because he has to like come meet her to bring her the necklace, and he's just been, you know, handling the Injustice getting their asses. But I don't know. It could have been her. It could have been her hanging out with Martian Manhunter. It could have been her hanging out with Hawkgirl. Like, I feel like it had to be a scene where she was kind of nonplussed by the need for men in the world, and that would have made a little bit more sense, I think, than just her going around and shopping. And she really doesn't even interact with any male characters while she's there. So I wasn't quite sure what they were going for.
So we briefly talked about this before recording, but we love the button at the end of this episode. Where
remind me of the button.
They, you know, everyone's saved. They're like, you know what? There is something good about having men and women in the society together. And then Flash comes in. It's like, well, you know, if I was there, I could have taught her a lesson or two. And it's like, maybe not all men.
Yeah. Oh, the button at the end of the second episode. Yeah.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah, part 2.
Yeah. Yeah. The Flash maybe doesn't represent the best of the male gender.
But like, if he was there with her during this sequence. You know, like him treating like a date and her just being like, no, I just needed like someone to show me the city. Yeah. And he's like, oh, well, of course. He's like, you know, like we can go get a drink if you're up for it. Mm-hmm. It's like having that aspect at the beginning.
I agree with you. I think that would have made that scene work better, as if she was, like on patrol with the Flash, or even just like, you know, he had offered to like, you know, take her around town as like a quote unquote courtesy, like, you know, trying to be a nice guy, but really just, you know, making up an excuse to flirt with her. Mm-hmm. I think that would have been a good way to kind of set up this dynamic a little bit better. So the Batman meets up with her, and you know, they realize that they suspect it's, you know, an Amazon who's you know, now leading the Injustice gang. So they send Hawkgirl to investigate out at Themyscira to figure out what's going on. And she doesn't try very hard to not pick a fight, does she?
She never does.
She never does.
I mean, that was the point that I made during the Thor Ragnarok episode.
Oh,
If it was Superman and Hawkgirl that were in this arena together, like, they're not opposites mentally, but how they handle situations is opposite. Where Superman will use violence as a last resort, where Hawker will use it as, like the 1.2 resort.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's
She
not
just
her
goes there
first, but it's always there.
Yeah, she just goes there immediately because she shows up trying to figure out, if an Amazon has left the island, and at the same time,
We have Amazon Rumspringer. And we have a lot
exactly.
of girls out right now.
Has anyone gone off on their Amazon Rumspringer? And at the same time, we have a bunch of Amazon warriors trying to investigate like a bunch of missing gold, obviously, wealth that Arisia is now using to fund the Injustice Gang. So it's like they kind of, they each have their own agenda. They're trying to figure out, they suspect each other, but, Hawkgirl's going there kind of on a semi-diplomatic mission to investigate. And she's just like, fuck it, let's just go ahead and get into a fight anyways.
I mean, what is diplomacy without violence these days?
That is sadly true. So she's, quickly taken down by a net. And then when she tells Hippolyta that she's friends with Diana, then, they go off to go find Arisia, and that's when we get the whole backstory on her. And by the end of the episode, we're seeing that a bunch of people are now starting to get sick with the same illness that's impacting Superman, and of course we come to realize that it's only the men who are being affected, and that kind of becomes the cliffhanger on this one, which is it's a pretty good one, I'd say overall. High stakes, worlds in peril. Justice League members are getting sick, as is the general populace. Not bad overall. So that leads us then into part 2, where now we know what Arisia's plan is to kill off all the men on Earth. The next step is for her to steal a military bomber to disperse the allergen into the upper atmosphere. So now at this point, we're seeing like the world is starting to go into chaos. There's accidents everywhere, like planes are stuck in the sky or I think maybe crashing in some incidents. There's like tons of car accidents because it's kind of like almost what happens at the end of Infinity War when everyone gets dusted, like half the population gets dusted. We just kind of see what would happen if all of a sudden, people just instantaneously started just dropping in the middle of what they're doing. It's kind of like pure pandemonium.
Yeah. And there's the fun line. Oh, right at the beginning, we hear the medic team going around looking at all this, helping up all the people who are falling sick on the ground. And one of the medics comes up. He's like, "This guy has glassy eyes. Like something's wrong with him." I'm like, "That's your first symptom, not the, exposed glowing purple veins on this man's face. Like maybe let's go with that more unique symptom."
Than the slightly glassy eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We see Batman is doing okay from what we can tell at first.
Yeah.
But he's kind of the last of the male members to start.
Of course he
hit.
is.
Yeah.
Of course he's the last one to go down. He's got to continue to save the day right up to the point that he can't. Gotta love him for it. Yeah. And just on a personal note, I also love it too because then, all of the Justice League members are taken up to the Watchtower to, be medically examined, which basically just means that you get Flash, GL, Superman, and Batman all just with their shirts off on the medical tables, which one I always appreciate, but I especially appreciate anytime when we get Batman sans shirt but still wearing his cowl.
Yes. which means does like someone have to hold the cowl down while they pull the shirt up? Or is there like a zipper situation?
I think maybe they just cut it off of him. But also, like, I guess, well, I would say normally that would be hard to do because we assume it's like some sort of like tough Kevlar situation. But I think we've seen in the animated series that his costume can get wrecked pretty easily. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the cowl like folds through the shoulders. Most of the time. Yeah, it's like the cowl goes over the shoulder blades and then the cape attaches to the cowl. But yeah, you're right. It'd be really hard to take the shirt off without taking the cowl off as well. Mm-hmm. Even harder for the Flash, who most versions of his costume, the cowl is a hood attached to like a full bodysuit. So yeah. Well, I was going to say, Green Lantern's outfit is just a construction.
That's true.
So I don't know how they got that done.
Wait, no. We've established that it's actually not a construct. Remember, he keeps a closet inside the same pocket
You're
dimension
right.
where he keeps the lantern.
You're right.
Because
I
especially
forgot.
this Green Lantern doesn't do construct. He just does zappy laser beams and bubbles.
Yes. Okay. So I was gonna say they would get like a yellow sponge and just like try and wash it off of him.
Like body paint.
Yeah.
I really hope that there's a deleted scene of Martian Manhunter. One, just having to track down a yellow sponge specifically. It's like, oh, we only have pink sponges. God damn
Yeah.
it.
It's like
What do I do with
Batman.
this?
Like Batman, I need a yellow sponge. He's like, I've never heard of such a common thing before in my life. Like, I'll call Alfred. Maybe he might know what you're asking for.
Alfred, do we have yellow sponges by chance?
I don't know their purpose, but they're
No.
in need.
Alfred wouldn't use a sponge. He would use some sort of like 1,000 thread count super fine towels
Yeah, that's what I'm
to do the
thinking.
dishes.
Yeah, he would like what is like the nicest version of a sponge you can get.
So there's a whole sequence where where Alfred has to like drive down to Target and go through and buy a bunch of yellow sponges and then drop them off on a waiting javelin to take them up to the watchtower.
Mm-hmm. But he can't because now he's also a guy, so he'd also be sick.
Oh my God, that's true. They're fucked.
They're fucked.
You know what? We should have known that at the end of the day, the world would fall apart because Alfred wasn't available to help.
Yeah.
I mean, if Batman keeps the Justice League going, Alfred keeps Batman going, which basically means that the whole world rests on his perfectly postured shoulders.
Yeah. Poor Alfred.
But yeah.
I don't want him to get sick.
No, we got to keep him around. But yeah, so, we're seeing all the men drop, and, the Orisha's point is basically like, this is a good thing. Like, man's world is just filled with like greed, deception, and cruelty. And she's right.
Yeah.
She's absolutely right, and even Wonder Woman's kind of put in this weird spot where, she's now slightly adjusted to living in what I'm going to refer to as like the outside world, the non, Themyscira world. But I think she still doesn't fully understand. I'm not going to say that the necessity that men play, but I don't think she maybe fully yet gets just how deeply entrenched men are in how the world runs. I think it's a better way.
It would just be
looking
like
at it.
if Themyscira lost half its population,
Yeah,
they wouldn't
exactly.
be able to function either.
Yeah, and I think this is an even more extreme case, and they don't really get into this, but you can kind of infer that this was happening, which is that men, because of just basically like sexist inequality, like men are disproportionately in more critical positions, right? So you can think about this is especially the early 2000s, and maybe let's say give this world the benefit that the DCU is like slightly more advanced and progressive than our real world. But that means that the vast majority of the world leaders are going to be affected by this. That there's probably a disproportional amount of like pilots and doctors and medics and engineers and scientists who are, affected by this. And as I was watching this episode, I was thinking,
Yeah, I mean, we know 100% of butlers that are in the DCAU
that's
are
true.
now all gone.
The most important one, especially. But I was as I was watching this, I was thinking like this plot line, I feel like wouldn't be done now, and not that it couldn't be done and couldn't be done interesting. If anything, I think a version of this storyline that has that modern perspective that's sort of like calling out, inequality would add a lot of interesting elements to this same story. But it couldn't be done now because like all of the fucking like toxic fans would just complain about how the libs and the social justice warriors, all the fucking SJWs are ruining media at this point.
Okay, because I was thinking about this too, and I was coming at it from the Disney perspective, where there's a shot where two helicopter pilots, two female helicopter pilots crash, or they get caught up in like telephone wires.
Yeah, they fly through a smoke cloud.
Yes,
And yeah,
that's
they
what
get
it
caught up in
is.
some wires. Yeah, electrical wires.
And so Wonder Woman has to come and save them, but then Wonder Woman is hit by the electrical wire. So then Hawkgirl, no, so Star Sapphire comes to save them. Which I have another
Yeah.
point on Star Sapphire in a second.
Okay.
But with the Disney problem, and I brought it up when we talked about Mulan, Disney doesn't know how to write a non-perfect female character. Where everyone they write of recent is born perfect, and their only flaw is they don't know they're perfect.
And
Your Rey's, or the kind of like the power is inside them character.
okay.
Rey in episode 7 was basically born already the best pilot in the galaxy. She already defeated Kylo Ren. She didn't need to go and train. She already beat him. And then 7, again, she's already the best pilot, already has everything figured out, already, is better than Luke, and Luke admits that. Already has, the Force is within her the entire time. And then in 9, it's the same thing. Mulan obviously had that same problem where the live action Mulan, where she's born the greatest martial artist in the world, and her only flaw is that she's too good that it's going to scare away men.
She has more chi than anyone.
Yes, and so as the story goes, she realizes the only reason she lost a fight is because she's not being who she is. The power's inside her the entire time. That problem. I initially, when I started this theory, I threw in Carol Danvers, but that is a little different.
Yeah.
But yeah, of recent, Disney can't write a non-perfect female character.
I do see where you're coming from on that, and I do agree to a point, and yeah, and I think I definitely feel like Rey is a great example of a character that was ultimately like underserved by what they did with her. They didn't really give her a lot of like depth and complexity, and they like the most quote unquote interesting about her was that she was related to an asshole. I disagree slightly though. I think Frozen is a good example of like balanced, well-written female characters because the two female leads are both really imperfect, and I think in particular, like Frozen 2, Elsa's whole arc is around her own insecurity and her doubt in herself, and I think that makes her really interesting. I think that makes that story really interesting. But I see your point though about that being like the reality of, let's call it what it is, like male writers tackling female characters, like they, rather than trying to make them flawed like you would a male character, the sometimes solution is to make them like too perfect.
Yeah, and I see that, especially in a male-centered writer's room, I see that problem being like anytime you write a woman in like in peril, you're gonna have people coming out of the woodworks being like, it's like, well, yeah, of course she can't do that. She's a girl. There's no way she can rescue the galaxy. It's like, but no, if you look at Luke from 4, 5, and 6, he didn't do shit by himself.
No,
I don't think he
didn't.
did a single thing. In episode 4, Han does everything, and Leia does everything, and Ben does everything. Episode 5, he loses his fight, and Leia has to save him, and Han has to save him.
Yeah.
And then in episode 6, he tries to kill his dad and doesn't, and then he almost dies, and his dad has to come and save him. Like, nothing in 4, 5, and 6, Luke doesn't do anything by himself. But you can't write that for Rey, because you're going to have men come out. It's like, well, yeah, Duck, she's not as good as Luke. She can't do anything by herself. Like, she needs a guy to come and save her the whole time.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think we're just further proving Arisha's point that like the world would be better off without toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And I think that's also what makes it hard to write an episode like this now, would be that you would just have like that toxic male perspective like shitting all over it, even though it's actually trying to say something relevant and interesting about our real world here, and offer up some valid commentary. But yeah, right. So it's like they now know what Arisha's plan is. She's going to launch these missiles up in the atmosphere. Luckily they're able to get a hold of a copy or a sample of the antigen to start developing a cure. And then the fight ultimately ensues between Arisia and Star Sapphire. And then one other character who we should mention kind of briefly here, Sakuri, who
Yes.
when I saw her initially, I assumed was Katana until they referred to her as Sakuri. And then I looked her up, and apparently this is an original character in the DCAU. That
This is her
basically
debut.
Yeah, exactly. It's basically just Katana.
It's just Katana, except her sword doesn't steal souls.
Exactly.
That we know of.
Yeah, and I at least in the usual level of like cursor research that I do, I didn't see any explanation as to why they opted to not go with Katana here and to go with a different character that's clearly inspired by Katana. Maybe that information is out there somewhere, and I just didn't happen across it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe something's happened in the comics. That's usually how these things go.
Yeah, and I know that you get those situations sometimes where they will have like embargoes. Like we've talked before about the Bat embargo that was going on during the Nolan era that severely limited what characters could be used. And we'll see that even throughout the rest of Justice League, is that there are very, very few Batman villains in here at all. And even like the Batman, that animated series, wasn't able to use characters like Ra's al Ghul or Two-Face or Scarecrow. Or some of those.
Yeah, that's why they went with fucking Copperhead.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's kind of true. But like, I mean, I also appreciate that because it gives us a chance to like learn more about these otherwise, lesser known characters.
Right.
And for all I know, maybe Katana was included in the Bat embargo to some degree because she's often associated with Batman, even to the point of being, I think, his sidekick in Beware the Batman.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think most people forget about that show, but it's so ultimately it becomes a fight between Wonder Woman, Hawkgirl, and the three female members of the Injustice gang.
Yeah,
and
but we have a almost flip because we see Star Sapphire come and help out Hawkgirl and Wonder Woman for a minute, and she said that she didn't want to follow with Arisia's plan anymore, which makes sense. Again, this is normal Green Lantern canon, not DCAU Green Lantern canon.
Right.
But Star Sapphire's power is her emotion is love / lust, like a lusting love. Mm-hmm. And so for her, a society without men, that means she would be exponentially weaker to some degree.
No, that makes sense. And I think even, if you want to go into like the ambiguous, at least for us, ambiguous realm of Star Sapphire in the DCAU, it also makes sense that someone else on that team might be like, this isn't the best idea. Like, I get what you're going for. I agree with your ultimate aims, but like your methodology is problematic. Like, Hawkgirl is obviously against it. And there's that lovely little back and forth where one of them makes a comment about how essential, can men be to your life. And Hawkgirl's response is, don't knock it till you've tried it. But, it makes sense that maybe one member of the Injustice gang would be like, this isn't the best idea. And they set up Star Sapphire to be that person. So we believe her when she shows up to help.
Right.
And then, of course, she's still a villain. She's like, nah, just kidding. I'm still working with the bad guys. But yeah, so like we kind of get that fight there at the end, and it ends as you kind of expect it to, with the Hawkgirl sabotaging the bomber so that the missiles can't escape, so the whole thing ends up blowing up, and we assume at that point that Arisia is probably killed in the battle.
Here's a quick question for you, Chris. I just realized this. So we know the allergen infects alien species, all men, the encapsulated all men circle.
Okay.
This allergen falls into the ocean where there are male fish. Did they just ruin the oceanic, not atmosphere, but the
ecosphere or ecosystem?
The ecosphere. Because at this point, if this is true, seahorses are now extinct.
Yes, this is true.
Because now they can't have any more babies.
Yeah, seahorses, any aquatic mammals like whales would be fucked.
Whales, dolphins, sharks are all gone.
All of the male members of Atlantis.
Yep.
Yeah,
fuck. There goes Aquaman.
and his son.
Does this spark the war between the Atlanteans and the Themyscirans?
I mean, it would have if half the Atlanteans weren't now dead. So.
Yeah.
You do raise a good point. I had not thought about that.
Yeah. It's like all that's left are the fish and the creatures that can, reproduce asexually. It's like we still got a lot of starfish, still got a lot of algae.
Yep. It's fine. Starfish are adorable. We'll keep them.
That's all we need.
Yeah.
They killed Mr. Krabs, Squidward, SpongeBob's fine, Patrick's fine, Sandy's fine.
I mean, it would take out SpongeBob too.
Do sponges need a male and female? Sea sponges?
Well, I don't know, but I
feel like sea sponges are asexual.
Look, again, if you try and unpack the scientific reasoning behind this, it makes no fucking sense. The only thing that would maybe kind of make sense is if it was designed specifically to attack what is it, the Y chromosome, right?
Yeah.
Biological men have Y chromosomes, and so if it attacked that, then it would kind of make sense. I think that's I didn't study biology. I don't know how this fucking works, but that's the only thing that, to my mind, off the top of my head, that I think would biologically differentiate the two. In which case, that would not be an allergen. That would have to be viral, because it have to actually affect your DNA.
Right.
But if that's how it works, it probably wouldn't affect a Kryptonian. It probably wouldn't affect a Martian. Mm-hmm. So we just have to chalk it up to comic book science on this one. So, and by comic book science, it would probably take out half the sea life as well, which is not a good thing. Sea life's good. We like sea life. They're
do.
helpful. Yeah. But I like it because there is there's another element to Arisia's history that Hippolyta had never explained, which was that it wasn't just that Arisia had survived a shipwreck and washed up on the shores of Themyscira, is that she was rescued at sea by the male captain of that ship, who basically paddled until he came across the island in order to save Arisia, and in doing so killed him. And it's kind of a nice moment when Hippolyta acknowledges that he's the only man ever buried on Themyscira, in an unmarked grave. And when Arisia asks why that part of the story was never included, Hippolyta acknowledges she just never thought it was important, because she never thought he was important. And I liked that kind of little button on that overall story. It does sort of acknowledge that there is an element of maybe short-sightedness to the Amazons, and that despite the fact that men in general are trash, sometimes they can be good. Like Paul Rudd. I'd be happy if
Paul Rudd.
Like Paul Rudd. You know what? We could basically lose pretty much all the men in the world, but I would acknowledge that for my few remaining breaths I still had before I died, I'd be like, oh, but the world just lost Paul Rudd.
Paul Giamatti also is a pretty good guy, from what I understand.
But he's no Paul Rudd.
He's no Paul Rudd.
He's no Paul Rudd. I challenge it to find a reasonable person who doesn't just love Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a fucking treasure.
He is. Who else would be on the Paul Rudd tier? I would put Justin Timberlake up there.
No, I don't think I'd put him up there.
You don't think so? I feel like he's pretty charming.
He's charming, but I think he might have his little issues here and there. I'd say I'd throw Paul Rudd in there. I'd throw in a Chris Evans. I mean, my God, we were talking about him last week. Michael B. Jordan.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that was the other news that was announced this morning.
What?
That we forgot to bring up in news. He's going to direct Creed 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that. Oh, that's
I forgot.
awesome.
It was literally posted right before we started recording.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It'll be his directorial debut as
here for it.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
Oh.
That is awesome.
That is absolutely awesome. Okay. No, that's fantastic. My God. Michael B. Jordan, you just continue to be a delight in everything you do. Let's see who else. Oh, Andy Samberg. I'd be sad to see Andy Samberg go. I like him.
Yeah. Rob Riggle. I feel like Rob Riggle.
Yeah, I do like me a Rob Riggle, a Tom Hanks, a John Mulaney, maybe.
Oh my gosh, John Mulaney. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also just happy that, a fifth of this list are two guys that went to my college.
Yeah. It's clearly your college is doing this.
Nope, definitely not.
Definitely
I
not.
can say for certain it is not the college.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, I'd be sad to see Idris Elba go.
Oh yeah, Big Driss.
Big dress. I do love me some big dress.
Some Tooch. Stan the
Some
Tooch
Oh,
Toochie.
Stanley Tucci. Okay, look. There are some men that I would be sad to see go. I would be sad, but I would be sad for so long because obviously I'm going too. But again, hypothetically speaking, might be worth it. Might be. Just possibly.
I watched the new Witches over this weekend.
Oh, nice.
It's fine.
Were you
but
going to do like a
obviously-
proper plug on it, or?
No, I'm not gonna do a full plug.
Okay.
I just wanted to talk about how great the Tooch is. I was watching it with a
Oh, he
friend,
is.
and I was texting her while we were watching, and I'm like, "It's the Tooch." She goes, "Who?" And I'm like, "How dare you?"
Dare you not know the Tooch?
Stanley the Tooch Tucci is the man. And it's like, I've never heard him referred to as the Tooch before. And I'm like, how? All three of us that use that phrasing, how have you never heard anyone of us call him the Tooch?
Yeah. That's what we call him in the biz.
Yeah. Get the Tooch on the phone. I got this great role for him.
He makes everything better. He's the only reason I've considered watching Transformers 4 and 5 because I know he has like a spot in those movies.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah,
That
he plays
is a
like
great.
he plays
Yeah.
Merlin, I think.
Oh, he'd be a good Merlin. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know.
That's good to know. Because
I
we're going
don't
to
know.
talk about something very close to that in a minute.
I'd say, yeah. Well, apropos of your question, but I don't know. Any other thoughts on these episodes?
Not too much. I like Wonder Woman being referred to as Miss Cheekbones.
Yes. Oh, she
Is
does
very
have
fitting.
Excellent cheekbones.
They
also,
felt even more like prominent in this episode. I don't know if they just used like a different ink weight, but they felt a little more like visible this time.
they did kind of give him, I feel like, a little bit of an extra sheen just to really point out that,
Yeah.
understandably, she is like one of the most beautiful women on the entire planet.
Yeah.
So, God, she is. God damn it, Wonder Woman's amazing. Also, totally forgot to mention some of the supporting cast thing. I'm trying to remember to do. Shout out to some of the great guest spots here.
Oh, yes.
So it's worth acknowledging that Arisia is voiced by the amazing Julie Bowen, who beyond being what is her character's name on Modern Family, Claire, I think, on Modern Family.
Oh
which
shit!
is-
Yeah.
Yeah, which she's best known for. But I of course first knew her from Happy Gilmore back in the day, and then of course she was one of the lead.
Is she the love interest in Happy Gilmore?
She's the love interest in Happy Gilmore.
Wow, that never clicked.
Yep, exactly. And she also was one of the series regulars on Boston Legal, which was a show that I inexplicably watched when I was like 15 years old.
My mom
and
loves
loved.
that show. Yeah.
I haven't gone. I started rewatching a bit of it not too long ago. Unfortunately, it's kind of a hard show to track down. But it's I love that show. It's fantastic. But so she those are kind of her most prominent roles. But she's also a very prolific voice actor too, and pops up in lots of different places. And she's great. Actually, I didn't realize it was her, and maybe because it was long enough ago that her voice, maybe just because she was a little bit younger, her voice wasn't as recognizable, or maybe she was acting and putting on a slightly different inflection. But I didn't. I think maybe subconsciously I knew it was her because her name popped into my head before I looked it up. But sure enough, that was it. And then of course we had Olivia Dabo returning as Star Sapphire, and this was one that actually quite surprised me. Mark Hamill was Solomon Grundy in these episodes.
Yeah, he was in the last episodes. It was an uncredited role for him.
Yeah, I did not know that actually. I guess forgot to look it up, but sure as shit. Oh, my God, Mark Hamill. Okay, Mark Hamill.
It's just his his vocal. Oh yeah, Mark Hamill. Yeah. I feel like his Grundy is just his vocal warm up for Joker.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely love him. But no, I mean, again, this show continues to give us some fantastic voice roles, and then Vanessa Marshall, who's another actor I absolutely love. She voices Hera Syndulla on Star Wars Rebels, and in a few iterations, she's voiced Wonder Woman. But she has a couple spots as like the lipstick lady and the paramedic in the background. But apparently, she was one of the final contenders for Wonder Woman in this show before it ultimately went to Susan Eisenberg. So
Okay.
And I would never, ever trade away Susan Eisenberg, who I absolutely adore as Wonder Woman. But I also love Vanessa Marshall, so I was glad to see that she, got to have a little spot here. So
Great.
yeah. Okay. Now, shall we go ahead and move on to our plugs for
Let's
the
do
week?
some plugs. Yeah.
All right. What do you got for us this week, Cameron?
So this plug is just more of a bit of information that I learned this week, and I didn't know where exactly it would fit because it's not new news, so I didn't want to put it there.
Okay.
And I couldn't really find a way to shoehorn it into a natural conversation.
I mean, you're pretty good at that.
I'm very
So-
good at that. But I have spent the good part of the past year ragging on Viacom
Yes.
for being so late to the streaming war. And I found out this week they do have a kind of streaming platform that I just never knew about.
Really?
And they were actually first of the people to do this. Last May, they made an extension to Amazon Prime called Nick Hits, which it's $8 a month, so I'm not going to pay for it right now. But Nick Hits has almost the entire backlog of Nickelodeon entertainment since probably 91. No game shows. That kind of upset me, but no game shows. But Pete and Pete, Salute Your Shorts, Are You Afraid of the Dark? All the OG live action stuff, Rugrats, Hey Arnold, Doug, everything from that point on, minus a few of the my big hitters. There's no Cat Scratch or Super Duper Sumos, but that's fine. I'll let those slide. But yeah, basically every Nickelodeon show is available on Amazon through the Nick Hits extension. And
that
I
is
wanted
insane.
I feel like I should give Viacom some sort of apology for how hard I've been hitting them over this past year, especially for them doing this 8 months before Disney Plus launched.
Yeah.
But I won't, because it's still $8 for just Nickelodeon, and it's not even the game shows. So I'm not going to give you an apologies,
Yeah.
Viacom.
It's. I mean, I'm glad this exists. Yeah, it's not quite enough. You're right. It doesn't have all the content. It's a little expensive for what it is.
Yes.
And I feel like it's worth giving Viacom credit for doing this, but also I feel like they just did it because they just dumped that stuff. They're like, oh, no one cares about this stuff, so fuck it. Just like put it up for $8 a month on Amazon. Don't publicize it at all, and just let it live there for anyone who cares.
Yeah, but also connected to that, I remember a couple months ago, Viacom making a deal with Netflix that they were just going to drop all of their content to Netflix, and that's why we got Last Airbender.
Oh, that's right.
And
yeah.
nothing has panned out from that since then. I don't think we've gotten any other Nick show on Netflix.
Oh, wait. Was that part of an overall Nickelodeon animation deal, or was that specifically a deal as part of the new Avatar show on Netflix? I always assumed it was part of that.
I don't think it's part of that. Because I remember them. It wasn't even just Nick. It was supposed to be all Viacom.
Oh, interesting. Well,
It's like we were supposed to get like Clone High on Netflix.
oh my God, Clone High. That is one of the few DVDs that I've held on to. It's not like it's actually impossible to find an official production DVD of it. It is like the only ripped media that I have kept, but I covet it like a precious gem in my
As
apartment.
you should.
Yes, because that is a fucking stone cold classic show right there.
Yeah. So I'll
but-
say it again, as I've been saying for years. Viacom, get on your shit. We're tired of you slowing everyone else down.
But aren't they also starting to put more and more stuff up on CBS All Access?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Because when it went up on Netflix, so Last Airbender went up on Netflix, and then within the week of that popping off, Korra went up on CBS All Access, and then also went up on Amazon, I think,
Huh.
before finally going to Netflix. So I think they just like saw the opportunity to just like sell, sell, sell. Like anyone,
Yeah.
you want it, here it is. You want it, here it is. You want it, okay, give us some money and you can have it.
I mean, I think this sort of stuff just further supports why some people hold on to like extensive physical libraries of their
Yeah.
stuff. Just because like you can't guarantee that things will stay where they are on streaming at all.
Right.
Rather sadly. I mean, we've dealt with this in regards to like what's going to happen with, all of the DC cartoons. We now know they're going to HBO Max, which kind of sucks. But yeah, sometimes it's good to just have a physical library of things.
Well, yeah, and that was also the this. I don't think you ever played this game, but back right after Scott Pilgrim came out, they made a Scott Pilgrim video game, and it's this beautiful 8-bit version of the movie that you get to play through that follows closer to the comics in the movie.
Okay.
And it's so much fun, but it was only available for Xbox digital download. And after like the game didn't just, following the wake of the movie, the game didn't sell super well. And so Microsoft just like took it off the servers one day, and anyone who bought it couldn't play the game anymore.
That's fucked up.
But what's great is they're re-releasing the game to make more money off of it this Christmas,
Of course.
and I will absolutely buy it again.
Of course you will. Of that, we can always be certain.
Yes. Anytime there's a new Scott Pilgrim, I'm in line.
He's there for it.
But for real plugs, I'm slowly catching up in my Hollywood in my Halloween films. Mm-hmm. And so this week I finally watched Cabin in the Woods.
No kidding. I watched Cabin in the Woods this week.
No way.
Yeah.
It's great. I understand the
is.
hype around it.
Oh, so you hadn't seen it before?
I'd never seen it before. No.
Oh, okay. I had seen it once before, so this was a rewatch. But
Yes.
it's great.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's like it's a weird like time capsule too, because it came out in I think 2011, 2012, but it was made before Thor. So it's like Chris Hemsworth before he was like Chris Hemsworth. Mm-hmm. And I guess actually because I think Joss Whedon was maybe a producer on it or something like that. Somehow he was involved.
No, he
but it's
directed it.
No, he didn't. Drew Goddard directed it. No.
Oh, then yes. Did he write it then?
I forget. Let me look up and see.
Yeah, because he's definitely attached. Because there was the joke back in the day that Joss Whedon wanted to do one of every genre, so then he could retire.
Well, he basically has to now.
Yeah.
Cabin in the Woods.
Produced by Joss Whedon and written by Joss Whedon. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Wait, did Drew Goddard also do a pass on the script, or was he just a director?
It's co-written by the two of them.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I guess he ended up recommending Chris Hemsworth to Marvel.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
That's like part of how he ended up getting in as Thor. So, which is pretty great. But no, it's fun. Like it's got an incredible cast. Like mostly kind of like younger unknown actors. Chris Hemsworth ended up becoming the biggest of them. But supporting cast like Richard Jenkins and Bradley Whitford, who are amazing, and Amy Acker's thrown in there, and it's just it's weird because for those who haven't seen it, like you almost don't want to talk about what it's about. Like
I don't want to spoil anything about it.
Yeah. Did you go in not knowing anything about it? You just knew people liked it?
Yes, didn't watch a trailer, didn't watch anything. It's just one that like everyone always talks about.
Yes. So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with your endorsement of this film. Like I said, I rewatched it this week. Super fun to go back to it. For anyone who hasn't seen it, don't read up on it. Don't watch any trailers.
It's the same. I would say the same thing for what's the Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Yeah, exactly. They're both kind of meta commentaries on the horror genre. And if you're a person who doesn't like horror, I'd say neither is scary enough to put you off if you're not a horror person, which I don't think either of us really are.
I'm certainly not a horror person.
Yeah, same. But they're not like, they are, yeah, commentaries on horror films while it's still including horror elements, but not being like full on horror films. Like, like Scream is a horror satire that is also like a full tilt horror movie. This is more of, like a commentary on those sort of things. So it's not so scary that to put you off, but if you haven't seen it, don't look anything up about it. Go watch it. Highly recommend it.
Yes.
It's fairly short. It's clever. It's fun. Yeah.
And then my last little plug is with the series coming out next year, and these comics have been sitting on my shelf for over a year, I finally started reading Invincible.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's great. I'm probably 20-ish chapters in right now.
Okay.
It is. I understand the hype. Again, it is very, very good. It's a great world. There's a lot more parody in it than I was expecting.
Okay.
In the sense of like they have the Guardians of the Globe are straight knockoffs of the Justice League.
Of course.
And with The Boys just ending, you get a little hint of that in there. It's not fully The Boys where everyone is just an asshole. Mm-hmm. But it's the fun part of like living with a house of superheroes. Like his dad is a superhero. His dad is Omni-Man, who's like the greatest hero on Earth. Mm-hmm. And the mom knows both of them are superheroes. And so she's kind of this like stay-at-home mom, just like making dinner for the three of them. She's like, oh, I guess dad's still saving the world. He'll come in later. And the next panel is just like a swoosh, and the dad's now sitting at the table. He's like, do you guys do anything fun today? It's like, well, yeah, I stopped an alien invasion. It's like, oh, yeah, my physics teacher was blowing up students because they were bullying his son. And he's like, yeah, and I didn't stop him, but like, he blew himself up, so he's not going to do that to anyone else anymore. It's like just like casual dinner conversations.
Yeah. That does sound really fun. Yeah, like I've always heard good things, so.
Yeah, so there's about 180 issues, I think, altogether. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how far I can get before the series starts.
Nice. Yeah. I'm sure you can probably get through a good chunk of it. I'm not sure when the series comes out, but
next spring, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you got time.
Yeah, I have the first like 60 issues on my shelf.
Oh,
they've just been sitting there looking very pretty.
Yeah, you're off to a great start then.
Yeah. But yeah, that's me. What about you? What have you been watching, listening, reading? What is your Viacom take?
Right, yeah. I've also been catching up on some comics, or I guess kind of rereading in some ways some comics. So I just reread the Batman No Man's Land run from like 98, 99.
You do love that series.
I do. I held on to my, like my collected trade editions of Cataclysm and the 5 volumes of No Man's Land from like when I was a kid. I picked them up recently when I was home and brought them back down to LA, and decided that, in the middle of a apocalyptic scenario in the real world, why not read another one in my background time? So I did reread it. But of course I thought like, oh, cool. I'll just like sit down and, reread the trades. I'll get through them real quick. It'll be really easy, really fun. And then for whatever reason, I like stumbled upon the fact that there was like this whole section called Road to No Man's Land between Cataclysm and No Man's Land. Like, oh, I've never read this, so let me look and see if I've missed anything. And then, of course, I find out that the trades from 20 years ago was only like half of the comics. It basically cut out all of the peripheral stories, all the tie-in issues from Robin and Nightwing and Azrael and all this other sort of stuff. And I was like, oh, God damn it, and Catwoman. Okay, God damn it. So I've spent the last like 2 weeks reading either the comics in the trade if it's there, or then going to my iPad to read them on DC Universe while dealing with the fact that like the DC Universe app on my iPad is corrupted and constantly crashes. I can't seem to fix it. So, and then like having to constantly check in and see where my progress was. So it became a full blown out thing that didn't have to be. But luckily on DC Universe, there's a comics playlist, if you will, like a comics collection that goes to the main No Man's Land stories. And I'd say, I'm glad I did read the other tie-in stuff as well. It does expand out the world a little bit. it kind of explains why Robin and Nightwing are gone for a long time, and then eventually they're called back in, and it explores the missions they're given to specifically by Batman to help rewrite No Man's Land. Which I guess for those who don't know what this concept is that a 7.6 scale earthquake hits Gotham City and destroys it so bad that the United States basically annexes Gotham City from the nation and makes it like a lawless no man's land, and people stay behind in the city, and so it's a matter of trying to like maintain order while that's all happening. And it was kind of loosely adapted a little bit into The Dark Knight Rises, but it's a good story. And I'm glad I did read the peripheral stuff, especially the Azrael stuff. I don't really know much about him. I just knew that he took over for Batman after the Nightfall arc for a little bit. But it's interesting to see kind of like learn more about that character and see what his missions were. And there's some good like one-off issues that explores what just like normal citizens or some of the cops who are left in No Man's Land are up to. Overall it's some pretty good storytelling, and I'd say it's well worth a read. I don't know if you necessarily have to track down I think Cataclysm's worth reading because it's the actual events of the earthquake itself and sets up a lot of what happens.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff in that like Road to No Man's Land that's not that good. You can probably get away with not having read it and still get the main thrust of it. But yeah, overall I'd say well worth a read. So but yeah, that was my plug for this week. So with that, shall we do a little Cameron's Question Corner?
I got a question for you, Chris.
I know. I'm actually opening up your corner this time. I've brought my proper lockpick set. Got that thing jimmied open. We're all nestled in here. It's cozy. It's a little crisp in LA now, so we have the fire going. It's delightful.
Ooh, yeah.
I don't know why I do this every
crisp
week.
Meaning, when you say crisp, it is 68 degrees.
Yeah. Hey, it's crisp. Okay.
That is. You know what? It might actually be like 72 today.
I have my windows closed because we're recording, and I'm not sweating. I have a sweater on,
that is
actually.
a good sign. That is winter.
Yeah. I can be in my apartment with the windows closed, not having the fans on, while wearing a Henley. This is the closest we get to winter in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
So
I know. Yesterday, I made myself some tea, and I went out on my patio, read
it's
some
so
Invincible.
Nice, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I might have a cup of tea. That sounds delightful.
Yeah, I listened to my downstairs neighbor cough while he was trying to smoke some weed.
Great.
For like 30 minutes. It was great.
Good on him.
But yeah, my question for you, Chris, this week is we've talked about, it's kind of piggybacking off of a previous question. We talked about authors covering other books, but I want to translate that to film, but specifically one director that everyone loves to hate on a little bit. And it's kind of a two-part question for you. Mm-hmm. So which Michael Bay movie would you want to give to another director? And then flipped on that is which movie would you like to give to Michael Bay?
Oh, so okay. I thought it was Michael Bay has to trade films to another director. What would you choose?
I mean, we can do that too.
Oh, okay. That's the version I went for rather than just like what any movie would I give to Michael Bay? Because I thought it was like if you were to swap Michael Bay were to swap a film with another director, what would it be? And so I went for Pearl Harbor because I think Michael Bay has made 3 good films in his career. The Rock, which is a stone cold fucking action classic. Armageddon, which is super cheesy, but is pretty good at what it is. And then I will always have a soft spot for that first Transformers movie. Which
It's so good.
Yeah, I actually think is pretty damn solid. And I think he was the right choice for that in a lot of ways, even though Bumblebee is better. But so I think he's made 3 good films. I say 1 great film. I think The Rock is great. I love that movie. But I'd say that his biggest missed opportunity was Pearl Harbor.
Okay.
Which I think there's some decent stuff in there. But overall it just is kind of a misstep. But I think that idea of, doing kind of like a big blockbuster, like romantic epic around that event is an interesting idea. So I would give that movie to Spielberg.
Okay.
Who I think could actually do it justice in terms of not only the action but the romance, and also being like I'd say like politically sensible about it too. I think he would be able to approach it all really, really well. So that's the one that I would like to see someone else tackle. But that means that I have to give a Spielberg movie to Michael Bay.
Oh, please say BFG.
It is BFG.
Yes.
Because that movie is awful.
Yeah.
I think it has one redeeming sequence, which is like kind of a semi-Rube Goldberg-esque like action sequence when the little girl first shows up in the BFG's cave, where the fuck he lives in. And I know that there are people who love that story, and I've never read the book, so I don't really give a shit about it. But that movie is awful. And I would, like, I don't care what happens to it. So just as a weird exercise, I would love to see what sort of like insanity Michael Bay would do with that film.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will say, because obviously Witches is also a Roald Dahl book.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you don't like BFG, I don't think you're going to like Witches.
But I didn't like BFG just because I was bored and I didn't think it was well made.
Okay.
I feel like, I don't know, I'll probably end up watching The Witches at some point. I mean, come on.
I will
Octavia
say
Spencer and Stanley Tucci
And the Tucci,
Anne
yeah.
Hathaway. I can't say no to
Anne
that.
Hathaway's. I will say, to support that movie, I didn't like the story very much, but the effects. It is directed by Robert Zemeckis, and so the effects are great.
Oh, I'm sure they are.
Like super super high quality. Obviously, this was supposed to go to theaters and then was passed down to HBO
Yeah.
Max. But yeah, for just the effects alone, I think The Witches is pretty fun.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, I like that idea, because
Yeah.
if you didn't say BFG, my second choice was going to be I want to see Michael Bay's E.T.
Yeah, that would be entertaining to see him just fuck that up.
Yes. So when I was doing minimal research for this, I didn't realize how few films Michael Bay has actually directed.
Yeah, not many.
He's 14,
Okay.
which you wouldn't believe looking at his IMDb, because his IMDb has 53 credits because he did so many music videos back in the day.
Oh, yeah, he did a lot of music videos.
Yeah. So I was having trouble figuring out which movie to pick. And you know me, I am a sucker for a good King Arthur story, or even a bad King Arthur story. I watch them all.
Yes, this is true.
And so I want to give Age of Extinction to someone else.
Okay.
And I want to give it to Taika Waititi.
Okay. All right. I can see
Because
that working. Yeah.
I feel like he would do such a fun job with the Transformers. And Stanley Tucci. I want to see the Tucci hang out with Taika Waititi.
That's true. I don't know if I don't think Stanley Tucci's been in a Taika film.
I don't think so. I feel like they're going to get along great, though.
I think they would. Yeah, I'd absolutely think they would.
And I did not follow your suit of giving him a Taika film, because
Okay.
I would never.
No, no. No. It'd be sacrilege.
But I think in 2003, you hate this movie. I haven't seen it in so long. Do you already know where I'm going?
Maybe.
I haven't seen this film probably since 2003, but I would either give him this one or the 2008 version.
Okay.
But I think giving him Ang Lee's Hulk or 2008's The Incredible Hulk.
I mean, that would be interesting to watch. I don't hate Hulk. I mean, I didn't like it when I saw it in the theaters. Even at 14, I was like, I kind of just want to leave. I would be interested to revisit it now and see if, in hindsight, if maybe there's some good gems in there. But okay, it's not one I absolutely loathe. But I do agree with you. I think it would be interesting to see what Michael Bay would do with the Hulk.
Yes. But as I think about it more, because I just kind of put that down as a filler, I don't know how much would change. The Incredible Hulk already kind of has a lot of Michael Bay tones.
A little bit. I mean, because so that one is Louis Leterrier, who my favorite movie of his is The First Transporter, which I think is also like a great action movie. The sequel's less so. But yeah, I think Leterrier can often be like Bay-esque. So, yeah, that would be. Oh my god, there'd be so many, even more explosions. But I mean, it works. You know, the Hulk he and explosions go together hand
So
in green
well.
hand.
Yeah.
So
They make him pop.
yeah.
Okay, here's a weird one that just popped in my head, and I can't
Mm-hmm.
get it out. So I want you to help talk me through it.
Okay.
Michael Bay's Leon the Professional.
I've actually never seen Leon the Professional.
Oh, really?
yes.
It's great.
And I'm pretty sure, I think that's Lou Leterrier as well.
Oh, is it really?
I'm pretty sure. So that's Luc Besson. That's right.
Okay,
I get them confused sometimes because they're both French directors who make action movies.
that's fair.
Yeah. No, that's right. Okay, sorry. Yeah, because Luc Besson also. Yeah, Luc Besson is, I think, hews more closely to Michael Bay because he also did The Fifth Element. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, those would be some good ones. I think. Yeah, I think Bay could do I'm not gonna say a decent job with them, but he would do something interesting with them certainly.
Yes, I feel like the hate towards Bay, and maybe it's just because I've been around you so much, has shifted to the hate to Snyder. Because I feel like Snyder's kind of just taken those shoes up. Like, Bay's only made 3 films really in the past 5 or 6 years.
I think they are both capable and competent filmmakers.
I can
I
see the
think-
anguish on your face as you're trying to
No,
get
no,
through
no. I
this.
genuinely believe that. I think like they can do good stuff. I've said there are 3 Michael Bay films that I think are good, and one of them I think is like The Rock is on the fucking Criterion Collection. All right, like it
Is
is.
it really?
It really is. It is legitimately a great action film. So it's like he's capable of making good stuff. Like I have a soft spot for Bad Boys 2, even though it's like way too fucking long and I haven't revisited it in a long time. But like he's capable of making good stuff. Zack Snyder as well is capable of making good stuff. I've never seen it because again, not a big horror person, but I've heard that his Dawn of the Dead reboot is supposed to be really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
I am an apologist for his Watchmen. I think there's a lot of good stuff in there, even if it's not perfect.
Yes.
And I haven't seen.
And we say constantly that he is the best trailer director
Yes,
out there today.
He and J.J. Abrams are constantly duking out to see who can give the best trailer. And I haven't seen 300 in a long time, but I've always liked 300, and I haven't revisited it, and I might just like it, frankly, because of the abs.
Yeah, I mean, it's how can you hate the thing that started CrossFit?
Right, exactly. but I will also say that both of those filmmakers, and from what I've heard, I think from anything I've heard is that Zack Snyder is actually like a really lovely, lovely guy. And I've never really heard. I've heard mixed things about Michael Bay, but like. I think the problem
we have
is
not heard great things about Michael Bay.
Yeah, we haven't heard great things about him. I think the reason those two are often kind of tied together is that they have a similar filmography and that they have like some decent stuff, a lot of bad stuff. There's like this cult of love around a lot of their work, and I think a lot of times that cult of love is like drenched in toxic masculinity because there are problematic elements of toxic masculinity in both of their work. And so I think that's why they are often kind of like, uttered in the same breath or considered of the same ilk. And I think that criticism is both valid, but also I think sometimes dismisses some of the good stuff they're capable of doing. So you were probably going for a bit right there, and I gave you like a real answer, but
No, I don't remember the question anymore. Oh no, it wasn't a bit at all. No.
okay. But yeah, I don't know. They're fine.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think. What movie would you give Michael Bay or Zack Snyder? We'll open it up to both.
Let's keep it simple. We already talked about Snyder too much in this podcast. I'd say let's keep it simple. If you were to have Michael Bay swap movies with any director, what would you do?
Yes. Yeah, I think that is more fun.
Yeah, it's a much more fun exercise. Love to hear people's answers. And so if you do have suggestions for that question from Cameron, you can write to us at TimmTalkPod, and we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Gmail. We do have a few small little notes from friends here. One of which I already mentioned, which was that James Strecker of the Watchtower database wrote to us to let us know that Carol Ferris is in fact Star Sapphire in the DCU. Apparently, it has been confirmed by Bruce Timm, and he also sent us a link to a video that he did going through the entire history of the Green Lantern Corps in the DCAU, and I will admit that I started watching it because I got it right before we started recording, but I did not finish it. So that is now my homework for this week. And Cameron, I'm going to send it to you as well, so it can be your homework. that we're going to go watch the Watchtower Database's video all about the Green Lantern history. So we now can finally actually know what we're talking about going forward.
But that's not our brand though, Chris.
Yeah, but also sometimes it's good
Our
to
brand
be
is knowing
knowledgeable.
60% of what's going on.
No, I mean, this is true. That is very on brand for us. But also, we can change, Cameron. We can change and evolve and, be better versions of ourselves. Better,
Chris, we're a sitcom here, all right? We return to the status quo. We don't change.
Every week.
This isn't episodic.
Right. Every week we come back to the same buffoons we always are. So that was one thing. And then the other one is, so Cameron, this is where I now prompt you to go to our Instagram and open it up.
Okay.
The great Ted Kendrick, also of the Watchtower Database, has been doing an Inktober challenge for himself on his Instagram handle of artificial.ink.creative. And for day 25, the prompt of Buddy, James Strecker was the guest artist. And so if you look at photos we're tagged in, James made Superman carrying Batman around in a massive Batbjorn.
I love it. That is so good.
I will put this up on our Instagram story. This is one of the most delightful things I've ever seen in my entire life.
That is absolutely amazing. I applaud both of you.
My immediate thought when I saw this was of Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park. It was, you did it. The son of a bitch did it.
You did it. That's so good.
Even just like the look of consternation on Batman's face as he's being carried around is what really makes the whole thing.
It's just ill-fitting enough.
It is truly one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my entire life. So thank you guys for doing that and for sending it over to us.
Yes, thank you.
It didn't just make my day; it made my weekend. To be honest, that was amazing. Oh, but like I said, if you've got thoughts on these episodes or some really amazing, goofy artwork to send us, or a response to Cameron's question, you can find us at Timm Talk Pod on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Gmail. You can find me at Lordifer on Twitter and Instagram.
And if you want to see my art, you can find that at Cameron.Dexter. And if you want to see my face, you can find that at CamDexter_adventures.
Yay!
Neither have been updated in months.
So you still haven't posted anything for Inktober, have you?
Nope. I've done 4 drawings, and I'm going to wait to post them until I finish my other project I'm working on.
I mean, Cameron, as of the day of recording, you have like 4 days left in October. Or no, sorry, more than that. You have like 6 days left in October.
Yes.
You're running out of time.
I only have to get 8 done to make myself happy.
Okay, but you have to at least get them out during October. Because we both know if you don't get them out and it's November 1st, you're like, fuck it, Inktober's over. I'm not going to bother posting them.
No, but it's for the project I've been talking to you about. I don't want to share with the public yet.
Oh wait, so you're not gonna post them at all this October?
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how I feel come October 31st.
But we will be back next week with Legends, a couple of great episodes, and we'll have a special guest too, which will be very exciting. But until then, thank you everyone for listening. We always appreciate it. And bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Ba, 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 ba.
Bye-bye.